Okay, before we get into this next story that came out recently, I want to talk to you a little bit about something about the separation of church and state. Okay, what does a separation of church and state means? Well, it simply means that the state um, is required to give religious freedom, meaning that it's not to impose its laws on that contradicts a specific religion and stuff like that. Like for example, you know, with Christianity, with biblical based Christianity, the government is not supposed to use the religion as a power of control to control the masses. And this is what secularists during the time of the French Revolution was also fighting for. Okay, that's the whole aspect of the Statue of Liberty and stuff like that. But nonetheless, the separation of church and state does have its ground in biblical principles. And we see examples of this, for example, in Matthew 22:17. Now, obviously, this is talking about tribute money and taxes and these types of things. But you can also see the distinction. And we're going to see a clear distinction in the Gospel of John when Jesus was being tried and being questioned by Pilate. Let's go ahead and start real quick. Matthew 22:17 through 21. Tell us therefore, what thinkest thou? Is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar, or not? But Jesus perceived their wickedness, and say, Why tempt ye me, ye hypocrites? Show me the tribute money. And they brought unto him a penny. And he saith unto them, Whose is this image and superscription? They say unto him, Caesar's. Then saith he unto them, Render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. Okay, so here we see in this clear verse that there is a distinction of separation. Okay, that the church is supposed to be separate. It's supposed to be a separate entity. Okay, from the state, meaning the body of Christ. Okay, now, obviously, all the other religions in this world have a somewhat of a church and state religio-political scheme. Islam, for example, um, Judaism, all of these other religions, but true biblical-based Christianity is supposed to be separate from the state, and hence the state is supposed to be separate from biblical Christianity. And what we see happening today is we see church and state uniting, just like the Vatican, who claims to be Christian, is anti-Christian because why? They claim Christianity, but they are a church and state religio-political system, which is clearly not biblical. Okay. Now, if we go to another passage here in the Gospel of John, chapter 18, verse 35 and verse 36, we see another example of this. Pilate answered, Am I a Jew? Thine own nation and the chief priests have delivered thee unto me. What hast thou done? Jesus answered, My kingdom, my government, is not of this world. If my kingdom, my government, were of this world, then would my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from hence. So here again we see this distinction of the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, and those that are partakers of the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Need to realize that our kingdom is not of this world. And based on religious freedom and religious liberty in the secular eye, to not yoke up church and state together, they would have to acknowledge this. And for quite a long time, regardless of how you view the founding fathers, what was stated in the Constitution acknowledged this. Maybe not from a biblical standpoint, but they did acknowledge this principle. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and move to Revelation 13. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. If you read earlier in Revelation 13, you hear about a beast coming up out of the sea. Now, a lot of people will like to claim that this is a future thing and stuff like that. And yes, it is part of the future, but it is also part of the past. Okay. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Now, if you know what the dragon is the serpent, the devil, and he's so he's going to speak like the devil. He's going to have a dragon type language attached to it. Okay, but he has two horns like a lamb. What is a lamb? Well, the lamb, behold, the Lamb of God that taketh away the sins of the world. So we have these two horns like a lamb. A horn is represented by a king or a kingdom. Hence, we see that this beast coming up out of the earth is going to have some type of Christianity background to it, even though it's not technically a Christian nation, it's more of a secular nation, but they would acknowledge that you see that there's this distinction of a separation of church and state. But there's going to come a time where he's going to speak as a dragon. And those that are yoking themselves up with this beast that comes up out of the earth, unknowingly, is actually following the dragon. The same thing as the beast that comes up out of the sea, which we see is the political empire of Rome, okay, and also the religio-political system of Rome. And the dragon gave its power to beasts out of the sea and great authority. So those that unknowingly are actually acknowledging the dragon and regarding to dogmas and doctrines and the political systems of this age and these types of things, okay? So what happened? Well, he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. If we go back in history, okay, we see that there was some kind of a wound that happened in regards to Napoleon, which is roughly around 1798, which was roughly about 1,250 or 60 years of political and state power that this beast had and inflicted on the known world at that time. And then obviously here comes Napoleon giving a command to Berthier to exile the papacy, or basically cut it off from being a political entity only, and hence the Pope goes into exile and these types of things, and then, that's the story on that. Okay, and then what happened after that is we see this other beast that comes up out of the earth, which is kind of like, it's a sparsely populated area, basically. This is the only nation that came up out of roughly around the time that this same wounding incident happened, okay? So I just want to make that clear, that we see something happening in the late 1700s to where something was cut off, to the point where, the French Revolution was in an aspect of portraying religious freedom and religious liberty apart from the state, which again it is, even though it is from a secular mindset, it has its grounds in biblical principles. That's what we have to bear in mind here. Okay, so if we look at just a very, very quick brief synopsis of the rise of the USA here, we have 1776 was the Declaration of Independence. Okay, 1783 is when the independence was acknowledged. At the same time, again, you had the French Revolution about to break out too. Independence was acknowledged by the nations of the world. In 1787, you had the Constitution that was officially framed. In 1791, the Bill of Rights was added. And in 1798, the same time when Berthier removed the political system of the papacy out of power, was recognized by France as an independent nation. Okay, at the same time. Now, this is very interesting. Okay, because again, like I said, so you had the Bill of Rights that was added. So clearly this was a secular mindset. At the same time, though, this religious freedom and these types of things of separating church and state has its grounds on biblical principles. You have to keep that in your forethought. Okay, just because that this was done by, you know, a worldly source, okay? I mean, we see examples of this all over the Bible, okay? For example, Cyrus the Great, granting religious freedom to the Jews. The same thing with Alexander the Great, okay? So we see this example all over the Bible that God used kings and rulers to kind of dictate the scheme of things, you know. But there also comes a time where the state and religion would unite, and you would have idolatry creep in and saying you have to bow down to a certain image and these types of things that we see as an example of Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego and the fiery furnace and these types of things. And then that's when we draw the line and say, no, we will not bow down. We have similar instances happening today where you have the Pope saying that we need to come out of this economy of exclusivity, which means this realm of separateness, and we need to be united as one whole faith. Okay, well, the Pope comes from a Vatican and Vatican state, church and state system. He's a religio-political ruler of this world. And so obviously we are not supposed to be part of this world. Okay, we are supposed to be separate. And the world does not want that. So here again, this is why this is so important, why this rightly fits the United States. Now, the articles I'm going to show you are very interesting. Okay, and this has been happening for a long time now. Okay, so as a matter of fact, basically since 2006, when an executive order was issued by President Bush under the status of 501c3, basically abolishing, the separation of church and state then. And no one really seems to comprehend that. But we're going to take a look at that real quick, and we're going to look at some current events that has been happening lately in regards to this. Okay, so basically here we have, as of March 2007, or March 7, 2006, churches have become official government agencies. Okay. Free speech will not be allowed in churches. This was a news brief from October 2nd, 2002. Political spies in churches. And then here's the executive orders. The executive order that was signed into law by President Bush, which has not been removed, by the way, the executive order, on March 7th, 2006. Responsibilities of the Department of Homeland Security with respect to faith-based and community initiatives. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, Constitution and the laws. Doesn't necessarily mean that the laws have to coincide with the Constitution, since he states right there that there's a separation between the two. Of the United States of America, and in order to help the federal government coordinate a national effort to expand opportunities for faith-based and other community organizations and to strengthen their capacity to better meet America's social and community needs. So we have a sense of liturgy here, and a public sphere. Okay, to better meet America's social and community needs. Section 1, establishment of a Center for Faith-Based and Community Initiatives at the Department of Homeland Security. Okay, the Secretary of Homeland Security shall establish, the Secretary, within the Department of Homeland Security, a Center for Faith-Based and Community Initiatives, or a center. This is what these churches have become, and virtually all churches in the U.S. are now 501c3 tax exempt, and in order to remain that status, you have to honor this system, which is a unification of church and state. So whatever the state puts into power, whatever the state says, the churches must obey the laws of the state under 501c3. So what is that? That means that you must acknowledge that your kingdom is of this world, and you cannot be separate from the state. See why this beast has two horns like a lamb and he speaks as a dragon? The center shall be supervised by a director appointed by Secretary. The Secretary shall consult with the Director of the White House Office of Faith-Based and Community Initiatives prior to making such appointment. Purpose of Center. The purpose of the Center shall be to coordinate agency efforts to eliminate regulatory, contracting, and other programmatic obstacles to the participation of faith-based and other community organizations in the provision of social and community services. Here's a big one. Step 3. Responsibilities of the Center for Faith-Based and Community Initiatives. Okay, to conduct, in coordination with the WHOF-BCI director, a department-wide audit to identify all existing barriers to the participation of faith-based and other community organizations in the delivery of social and community services by the department, including but not limited to regulations, rules, orders, procurement, and other internal policies and practices, and outreach activities that unlawfully discriminate against or otherwise discourage or disadvantage the participation of faith-based and other community organizations in federal programs. It's getting close to the time to come out of Babylon, folks. Coordinate a comprehensive department effort to incorporate faith-based and other community organizations in department programs. Okay? And department programs, meaning, Homeland Security, these types of things, and initiatives to the greatest extent possible. Propose the development of innovative pilot and demonstration programs to increase the participation of faith-based and other community organizations in federal, as well as state and local initiatives. So, a summary of the technical assistance and other information that will be available to faith-based and other community organizations regarding the program activities of the agency and the preparation of applications or proposals for grants, cooperative agreements, contracts, and procurement. Okay, so the whole aspect was the church was already tax exempt to begin with. Okay, you had this 501c3 tax exempt status come in, and that was the carrot. And then fast forward to 2006, roughly 50 years later, then you have this, totally abolishing the separation of church and state. So now those that have a 501c3 tax exempt status are now, maybe unknowingly, but they are now yoked up with the state, which means they have to basically declare the government, the state, as their god. And that's all churches here in America. Every single one of them. Whether it be Seventh-day Adventists, whether it be Church of God, whether it be Jehovah's Witness, Lutheran, whatever. It does not matter. Okay, this has already been put in law and is already acknowledged as such. Now, here's a recent article that came out. Stasi in the pew. Cops penetrate churches and turn them into snitch operations for the national security state. It's out of Infowars.com. The Hanover County, Virginia Sheriff has rolled out a surveillance and snitch program based inside local churches. Okay, the mission of the program, according to a post on the Hanover County webpage, is to reduce crime and the fear of crime in houses of worship and areas frequented by the faith community, as well as provide for emergency preparedness partnerships initiatives. We provide education and partnership opportunities to our faith community in an effort to recognize crime risks, train them to accurately report crimes, and be better prepared in the event of an emergency. Okay, and as we reported previously, emergency preparedness has operated as a cover for federal penetration of state and local law enforcement since the presidency of Ronald Reagan under Executive Order 12656, but really took off after the 9/11 terror attacks. Laws passed since the 9/11 attacks, including the Patriot Act, the John Warner Defense Authorization Act of 2007, and the Military Commissions Act, are designed to complement and enhance continuity of government operations more tightly focused on responding to internal dissent and threats to the status quo than maintaining government cohesion after a nuclear attack. As the Department of Defense has stressed, crime and terrorism are now inseparable. Penetrating churches and other religious institutions and turning them into snitch operations for the national security state, under the control of local law enforcement now merged with the Department of Homeland Security, demonstrates the seriousness of the ongoing effort to convert America into an Orwellian nightmare and a Stasi panopticon. Okay. According to pastor and former presidential candidate Chuck Baldwin, the national security state has exploited the IRS 501c3 nonprofit tax status to undermine churches in the United States. Okay, so we go to hanovercounty.gov, and what is this? Well, we have remember the whole thing with Neighborhood Watch? You know, if you see something, say something. Well, guess what? We have Worship Watch. That's right. Your safety is our passion. Hanover County Sheriff, Worship Watch. Colonel David R. Hines, Sheriff. The purpose is to encourage a free exchange of information regarding crime trends, crime prevention techniques, and emergency preparedness between the Sheriff's Office and the faith community. Something seems a little suspicious, if someone's getting a little out of line of what they're saying, you might want to report it. To reduce crime and the fear of crime in houses, this is a mission of worship and areas frequented by the faith community, as well as provide for emergency preparedness partnership initiatives. We provide education and partnership opportunities to our faith community in an effort to recognize crime risks, train them to accurately report crime, and be better prepared in the event of an emergency. Crime facts. 3 basic elements are needed for a crime to occur: the ability to commit the crime, criminal desire, and opportunity to commit the crime. Well, see, here's the thing. Everyone has the ability to commit a crime. Everyone has the ability. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't want to commit no crimes, but I personally have the ability to commit any crime I want to. I can go out right now and just say, hey, I'm going to go kill somebody. You know, so, I mean, what kind of broad range does that mean? Ability to commit a crime. Criminal desire. Opportunity to commit the crime. If we reduce opportunities for crime and make crime more difficult to commit, we can significantly reduce the risk and severity of crime at our faith community facilities and areas frequented. Is this beast out of the earth making an image like unto the first beast? Is it acting like a religio-political system just like the first beast that came up out of the sea was doing? Sad reality of it, has been doing it for a while now. Emergency preparedness. Historically, the faith community has played an active role in various means of community support and response during crisis situations. Those that believe in a preacher of rapture won't even acknowledge this fact, because this is post-Revelation 4, where the church is no longer mentioned. But see, here we see this happening now. This level of involvement is a nationwide trend, and one with which the Hanover community is very familiar. Worship Watch provides opportunities for preparedness and response education, networking, and cataloging resources, and understanding your role in support of community responses in crisis situations. Excuse me. And community connection. Neighborhood Watch and our Business Watch programs, similar in nature, operate within defined geographic areas, a neighborhood or site location. So, really, in the aspect of who can you trust, even in your workplace, you don't know who's basically, spying out what you're saying and these type of things, and could be possibly reporting it to the authorities. You don't know what's being watched on. You have no idea. So basically, they're putting the fear in you to keep your mouth shut. That's what they're doing. Worship Watch combines site facility benefits and expands partnership opportunities with our community by transcending borders, generally defined by a neighborhood or business location, to all areas commonly frequented by members of the faith community. Membership benefits. Ooh, here's the carrots. You can expect designated sheriff's office personnel ready to serve you. Electronic communications keeping you up to date on community crime trends. Regular meetings designed to further our partnership with you. Ability to participate in an emergency response resource catalog with the purpose of networking resources in a community time of need. Materials and resources to educate your faith community on areas of public safety and security. Information on our facility security assessment program. An opportunity to further your response and support of those you serve. Worship Watch stickers to be posted in a conspicuous place signifying your participation in the program and sending a visible message to would-be criminals. Worship Watch is modeled after a highly successful Neighborhood Watch and Business Watch programs. Worship Watches are organized by geographical areas defined by the faith community watch activities, are facilitated by a Worship Watch coordinator who acts as a liaison between the sheriff's office and the faith community, right there in your church. So if this is happening in Hanover County, in Hanover County, well, in Virginia, could it be liable to expect this to be happening possibly everywhere else? And here is the flyer, the Worship Watch. Worship Watch is a community initiative similar to a neighborhood watch. It provides a platform of communication and partnership specific to our faith community and is designed to broaden response and service opportunities to our citizens. So again, ever since 2006, church and state done away with. It is united. Under 501c3, it is acknowledged as fact. Your churches are no longer places of worship. Your churches are government centers, and your pastor is designated as the CEO, basically. Or your pastor is designated as the head. Your deacons are designated as CEOs. So whatever church you belong to, if they have, go ahead and ask them, are you a 501c3 tax exempt based, faith-based center? And if they say yes, then you know that they're yoked up with the government, that you know that they are yoked up with the state, that they acknowledge that the state is their God, even though they maybe unknowingly do so, but the fact is, they do, because this beast is speaking like a dragon in regarding to this executive order, and so therefore they are acknowledging the dragon. They are acknowledging Satan. Satan comes as an angel of light. He's not going to come with, a monster with horns rousing out of his head and, a tail and a pitchfork. Or a creepy looking thing from The Exorcist. It's... People got to wake up. People got to wake up and realize that the churches that are in this country today are of this world. Well, instead of being in the world, but not of the world. There again, there's another example of the separation of church and state. And this was the whole problem with church buildings in the first place. So, again, this is another report of prophecy and the news and prophecy. Truth be told, truth be known. Stay safe. God bless. I hope this message has been a blessing to you. Stay safe. Blessings.